Yours works.
All right. What'd you say?
It's on. You're live.
I'm live? Oh, okay. Shalom. Shalom. To the 12 tribes of Yisrael, scattered to the four corners of the world. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Here we get an opportunity to speak to the 12 tribes, to give a word of encouragement. For those of you all who were looking for Huldah earlier, the live stream for some reason was not working. It will once again be uploaded for your viewing pleasure, if you want to call it that, because we went to a lot of work today. Hallelujah. So she had us in doing some laboring in the word, trying to understand the text, and that's what it's about, right? It's about learning Hebrew and being able to then use the Hebrew in order to properly interpret our Bible. What's the end game? That we can be followers of Yah and walking according to Torah as correctly as possible. Because all praise, honor, and glory belongs to Abba Yah. Tonight, I also want to say, continue to pray for us. Of course, next week, not this Shabbat, but the following Shabbat, we will be in the island, the country of Trinidad and Tobago, and we look forward to the gathering of saints there. It's going to be a marvelous opportunity to see the awakening remnant in the islands and those that are going to make the gathering. So we look forward to it. We're going to be bringing messages there and just the whole thing. I want to say Toda Rabbah to those who are supporting the work that we're doing and the traveling and all the other stuff that goes with it. We are, of course, preparing to leave, preparing to get things together. Don't forget that Sukkot is coming up. Those of you who need to register for Sukkot, please go to the website and register for Sukkot. Those that are supporting, continue to do so, because we are completely depending on you supporting the work to allow us to go out and do what we do. So if you can do that, please take out time and do that to help www.awakeningremnant.com, and you can give to support the work. I also want to give a shout out to, well, of course I mentioned Hula, but to all of the people who are being led by Yah in this hour to discover truth. Hallelujah. This idea of just saying, oh, I'm just going to be a preacher because I feel like I have the gift of gab. No, see, those days are gone. We have thoroughly exposed the flaws of Christianity, of all other religion that's come across us, and we've discovered that many are called, few are chosen, and those of us who are trying to walk, I want just to say this before we even get started, be encouraged. Friends look at you weird, families think you're strange, you might feel all alone. I just want to say, be encouraged if you are going after this Hebrew understanding, Hebraic understanding of Scripture, as well as Hebraic lifestyle, because this is what the Father desires. And so that's enough of the introduction. We will be posting a little bit more. Well, I know I'm going to be posting more often, and we're working on Holt and I putting the home studio back together. And therefore, we're going to be able to do more studies once we can get that set back up. And that's really a blessing to be able to do that. All right, let's pray. Abba Yah, Toda Rabbah for tonight. Thank you for the lesson that we got the insight to the Hebrew alphabet. We thank you for preparing our hearts to receive what you have for us. I thank you for each and every person, the thousands among thousands of people who are going to watch this video. And I pray that as they watch it, it will help them come out of darkness into light, and that they would be able to stay and stand strong as your children in this hour. I pray that you will bless those who support this work, and that whatever they give, that you would, as Abba, bless them in return. All praise, honor, and glory belongs to you. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Amen.
This series of what did the king say was birthed from in my heart, because so many people seem to spend so much time talking and discussing or arguing over what one person says versus another. And so you've got, unfortunately, in the Hebrew and Hebraic awakening, unfortunately, we have division.
Right.
And there should not be any division, because Yahuwah is Ahad, he's one, and Torah is one. And the Bible itself, or what we call the Holy Scriptures, is one.
Right.
Now, when you have the mindset of a Christian, then you can interpret the Bible the way you want to interpret it. The English definition of the word believe means, watch this, to think something is right.
That's right. Think something.
Or to think something is true.
Right.
So therefore, when a person says, I believe, it's based on what they think
That's right.
is true, and it doesn't have to be true. But as long as they think it, it falls in the category of the English idea of to believe, which is completely against Torah.
That's right. Man.
I'm not doing the word believe tonight, but if I was going to do it, you would see that there is no such thing as believing just based upon thinking something is true. Belief is an action word in Scripture. So, when we approach the text and we read what the king says, it is the final say. Did you get that?
Yes.
After the king says it,
That's it.
oh, I feel something when I said that. I'm gonna say that again. After the king says it, it's over. It's done. The children could be talking about anything,
Right.
going back and forth. Children was no, 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 no. But watch this. But when Papa come in and he say, "All right, listen, this is it,"
That's it.
then that's pretty much it. Papa don't come in and go, "Okay, kids, how did you interpret that? What do you think about that? How do you feel about that?"
In natural.
Because I think I'm gonna follow y'all.
Right.
What should we have for dinner? Popcorn and bubble gum. Yeah, that sounds good. No. We have a king, Zion, and our king has spoken. I'm going to give another disclaimer, because I got to do this on every one of these videos, because I know people are quick to try to label people. And I'm not going to carry those labels. I'm going to tell you now, I don't follow any of these camps, nor am I following any camp doctrine, nor do I approach the text from any type of what we call bias or prejudice. I didn't grow up like that. I wasn't raised like that, and I read scripture and found out it's not about that. The idea that we're seeking truth is what it's about. And whatever is true is what we want to teach.
That's right.
You get it?
Hallelujah.
If it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel bad, if it makes you feel funny, if it makes you feel whatever, I don't care how you feel, because y'all don't care how you feel or how I feel.
That's right.
Did you hear what I said?
That's right.
So there's some things we have to discover in the text, understand it is the truth. Watch this. Don't try to conform the Bible or the word of Yah, the scripture. Don't try to conform the Bible to you.
That's right.
Don't try to make the Bible say what you want it to say.
Right.
Wow.
When Hulda did that, man, she was on point. She said, translators, most of the Bibles you hold in your hand
Our translators.
are translated by a Christian
That's right.
who, before they even picked up a pen to translate the first word, had a bias and a religion and a persuasion in their mind.
For that.
And when they wrote, they used a bunch of English words to help push whatever doctrine they were a part of.
Right.
And if you notice, every denomination pushes a particular Bible.
Right. Right.
Why? Because they're going to find the one that fits what they already, quote unquote, believe about something. Whereas when we study from the original Hebrew, which one of the guys named Jeff Benner, which I'm sure one day y'all gonna let me speak to him because I need to talk to him. He basically says that what we need is a mechanical translation.
Right.
In other words, just interpret it, just tell me what the definition is, and then let me then decide how I'm going to put it, understand it. But for you to try to give me the understanding in your translation,
Right.
oftentimes makes you add something or take something away. Because you don't think I'm smart enough to put the pieces together. So you try to put all the pieces together for me. And so therefore you end up with Bibles that are biased. I've mentioned this several times. I won't get into it tonight. But just like for instance, when you got your King James Version, notice they named James King,
Right.
but they call Yah Lord.
Lord.
But the Bible is called King James, but they substitute Yahuwah with the Lord. Kings are above lords.
Right.
So right off the bat, you have a biased
Position.
position in your translating of the text.
It's misleading the people. That's why can you see so much confusion.
Exactly, and that's where I'm going with it, is that the more I'm digging into what the king says, the more I'm starting to understand something. The king was trying his best as our king to set the record straight in the mind of the people who, this is post-Babylon and post the Maccabean Greeks.
Greeks, right.
After the Greek influence that came in, by the time the king arrives in Bethlehem, right, and is reared, by the time he begins his ministry, Greek thought had already started permeating the mind of the Hebrews. So they started sliding off of, watch this, sliding off of working definitions, or what we call concrete definitions. And once you move from a language that's concrete to a language that's abstract, then you can start interpreting and doing whatever you want. Matter of fact, you'll actually start saying that the Master King came to free you from Yah. You get so messed up, you will be saying that he died so you can break all the laws of Yah. You ain't got to keep the commandments no more and all that. Where'd you get that from? And you find out it's based on a bunch of sliding abstract things. So I wanted to put that out, and I already know that our time is later than normal, but Hula had to get that lesson out. It was good. So, but I still want to examine some things, and if I don't get through mine, I can always pick mine up. So this is what we want to do. We want to understand that when our king spoke, one of the things he was doing was he was re-emphasizing Yah's original Torah. You get it? Like, he was taking Torah and putting it back in its proper place because it had been tampered with. the Hebrew mind and the Eastern mind and the Western mind are worlds apart. Now, I mentioned this idea of prejudice or what they call supremacy or any other thing, and I can't be labeled in none of those groups. Because Yah preserved for himself this idea of choice. You all better write that down. He has a right to choose anyone he wants to choose to do whatever. And if he makes a choice, then no one has a right to come against Yah and says, you shouldn't have chose him, or you shouldn't have chose her, or Yah should not have chose them.
Man.
Just because you don't like them don't mean that Yah don't love them.
Right.
Right.
And y'all don't use them. Y'all use them.
And people have nerve trying to find fault with the people Yah use.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But then you want to line up to be used, like you ain't got no fault.
Right.
Are we in this room together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once again, we're going to talk about a select people chosen for a particular reason and purpose. Me and Speedy talk about this all the time when we get together. I don't think we've ever had any lengthy conversations without bringing this up. You cannot understand the Bible if you don't understand who, what, where, when, how, why. If you don't ask those basic questions, especially the who,
Man, the who.
how are you understanding scripture? You can't. You're reading something. Every time you pick up a novel, if anybody's ever read a novel, it's going to introduce characters.
Right. Right.
How will you read a book and never know anything about any of the characters in the book? No, it's going to tell you who the characters are. You pick up any history book, they're going to tell you who the people are in the history book.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, when you pick up the Bible, he's going to tell you who the people of Yah are.
Did you eat your burger?
He chose
Did you make some of that?
a
How
people.
much?
And I'm just going to cut to the chase just in case somebody won't cut me off and put this out quick.
Then you need to eat two
He
more.
chose Yisrael and the children of
Children of
Israel.
Israel. There you go.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Abraham had more than one child,
Right.
but he only chose one,
One.
Isaac.
Isaac.
Isaac had more than one child,
Yes.
but he only chose one, Jacob.
Right.
Jacob had 13 children, 12 boys and one girl. And Yah chose one of those tribes to bring us our king. Whether you like that or not, it doesn't change the fact it's true.
That's right.
He calls them the children of Israel, who is Jacob. And I know it's going to bother some people. When he showed up on the planet as our king, born in Bethlehem, he came for the house
Of Israel.
or the family of Israel.
Israel.
Because that chosen nation was set apart to do something.
Right.
Watch this. Y'all got time to film notice?
Let's go.
This text is so. I was looking at this text. I was like, "Whoo! Do people know what he actually said here?" Listen to this. Matthew 5:14. The king is talking to his disciple. Can you tell the kids to be quiet? This is really good. Whoever's close to the door. The king is talking to his disciples, his Talmudim, to the Hebrews, to the Israelites that were in the land at this time, that was on the mountain with him.
Right. Right.
He was not speaking to the whole world here.
No.
This is what he says. It's in the Bible. You
Are the light of the world.
are the light of the world. Period. wait. What? If we were to unpack this, and I'm going to unpack it, on the surface, that sounds like he got a special people
Right.
that he considers to be light, while everybody else he considers must be dark.
Dark.
How arrogant would that be? For a normal human to point to another human and say, you the light. Then the person sitting next to him go, what about me? No, you ain't the
You
light.
ain't the light.
He's the light.
Right.
Do you see now how that creates like this weird thing? Is there really a people that has been set apart by him to be the light of the whole world?
Who is that?
Who
Is that?
is he talking about when he says you're the light?
There you go. The who.
And I'm going to deal with that tonight. But first, let's understand this word light in Hebrew. I've asked Hula if she would to kind of assist me on the screen behind me. But I'm working off my notes. But watch this. Hebrew is concrete in that abstract. He says, you are the light of the world. So we need to go to the first mention of the word light in our Bible to try to understand what light is.
Genesis.
And we got to go to Genesis chapter 1. Ain't no getting around it.
Yeah.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 3 says, and Yah said, and Elohim said, come on, let there be light. So when he said, let there be light, right after that he said, and there was light.
Yes, absolutely.
So from the time he uses this word light in the beginning until the king comes is a whole lot of time, man. We're talking about thousands of years.
Exactly.
So when he called them light, what was in their mind? Or what was in his mind?
It was in his mind.
So let's first go to this word light, and then we're going to plow through it. But does anybody know what the word light is in Hebrew?
I was gonna say, I
I'm so
was
happy
sweating.
with this. I'm so happy with this group. Yes, it's the word or, and it is spelled Aleph, Vav, Resh. For those of you who are purists, Aleph, Vav, Resh. In ancient Hebrew, by the way, I got this from studying some ancient Hebrew teachers. So this is not something I made up on my own. In ancient Hebrew, and y'all know the Hebrews are the ones who wrote the Bible, right? Correct?
Yes,
Yes.
Greeks didn't write the Bible.
correct.
Hebrews wrote the Bible. The word light in Hebrew is related to the word box, B-O-X. Box. Now, in English, what relationship does light and a box have together? It doesn't.
It does.
But because this word or can mean or does mean box, The translators could not say, and Yah said, let there be box. And there was box. So now we've got to understand, or we've got to discover, how does he make light? How does light and box mean the same or relate to each other? That right there, Zion, is our task tonight, to unravel what the Messiah, our King, is saying to his Talmudim, his disciples. Now, it doesn't make sense to us that a light and a box has a relation, and you won't see it in English, but you will see it in Hebrew. Light is spelled with Aleph, Wa, Resh. It is what they call, and this is not, I'm not trying to get deep because I'm not deep in this, I'm just trying to show you what it is. It's what is called a child root. Just write that down. Later, Hula will explain all that. Children come from parents, right?
Yeah.
So certain words come from other words. So let's say if you have a parent and the parent gives birth to a child, then that child is going to relate to the parent, right? So as a child of a word, the original Hebrew word for or, take out the wa, and what you will have is a parent root called R. You will just have Aleph Resh. Aleph Resh is the parent root. And that word means, watch this, it means to order. To order something. Or to gather something. And the idea of gathering is for the purpose of receiving order. Therefore, we get this idea of a box.
Wow.
The question is, what do you use a box for? Most of the time, it's because you want to put certain things in order. You use boxes. So let's break this word down real quick. The parent root that just has two letters, Aleph and Resh. The Aleph is what? Come on, talk about it. Ox, strength, leadership, authority. An ox is literally a cow or bull that is used primarily in agriculture for plowing. And because of the muscle and the mass that it takes to pull a plow, he was seen as a strong one. But also because an ox was often teamed with another ox, then the ox was also considered a leader, because the very yoking of this mature ox with a lesser mature ox meant that the strong ox was teaching the more inexperienced ox how to plow. So what you have is not only power and strength, you also have this idea of leadership. You have the idea of leadership because the oxen worked in teams.
Good stuff.
And what was the whole point? The whole point was so you could plow straight. So write that down.
Straight plow.
It's the idea of straightness, and we also deal with strength. It doesn't take a whole lot of strength to wander all over the field. You could tie it, in that case, you could tie the yoke to anything. But because you would train this oxen, and he would then train the other oxen, you got this idea of strength and authority so that you could go straight. The second letter in this parent root, remember, it's just nothing deep. It just means that we have an English word light that comes from a Hebrew word or that comes from another Hebrew word are. And it's made up of a resh. The last letter is resh, and that means head or top. It also means to start or to begin, which is very interesting. So that a resh could be a top of something or the beginning of something. Oftentimes, when you see this word resh, it's connected with a human.
Right.
But it also can mean the head of any type of anything, the beginning of anything. All right, but human for sure. So when we put the two letters together, the aleph and the resh, we have strength from above, or strength from the top. You get that? And the whole purpose is for order. You can even say like this, because I mentioned about that ox being strong, you can even say to be led from another power, from a higher power, from the top. So, how that relates to a box is, boxes are used in Hebrew, among the Hebrew culture, among our ancestors, for order. Why? Because they moved a lot. They were nomadic. Our ancestors traveled a lot. And therefore, they knew that the easiest way to travel and to collect all their things and to keep them in order was to then put them in boxes. You understand that? Now, who is putting the things in the box? Are the things putting themselves in the box? I'm going somewhere with this. Or is the head of the house arranging or putting things in the boxes as he chooses? Which one is it? It's the latter.
That's right.
Because if it's the other way around, you got a scary house. If you just can put a box in the living room and everything just jump in order. No, so what you do is you take a box, right? And you put it in the kitchen, and you put dishes in that particular box to keep them in order. They're the dishes. So when you get to another place, you can take the box that says dishes, open it, and you should have plates, spoons, forks. Y'all get it, right?
Yeah.
Because y'all looking at me like I lost you. No, everybody is familiar with that. The way you're able to do it is that the power of the house, the head, is able to go in the house and determine what goes where, because the idea is order. So, to a Hebrew, a box was not necessarily square. Write that down. And don't think that they were strange because of that, because at the same time, you don't think that either. You just don't know it. If I told Janie, or if Janie told me, look in the closet and bring me those 4 hat boxes,
Right.
would I be looking for square boxes or round boxes? If I bring her a square box, she's going to say, didn't you hear me tell you? I said, get me the hat boxes. So therefore, it's the box itself can take on the necessary shape needed to carry whatever the object that you're trying to keep in order is. And that is important to understand, because gathering things into a box for the purpose of transporting them or keeping them in order meant that the things could be put in a lot of stuff.
Right.
You could have something in a container. You could have something in a round box. You could have something in a basket. But when you get ready to move, somebody will say, well, you ready? They might even say this, are you all boxed up?
That's what we said.
And the person says, yeah. All right, let's go. I don't want to belabor the point because I think you got it. But imagine trying to go from one location to the other with no boxes. That is just keeping everything loose.
It's all over the place.
Could you, I'm talking about no containers. Just grab it by hand, throw it in the, y'all shaking your head like, oh, no. That the thought of it is disturbing.
Right, you don't want to do
Man, I
that.
gotta try to carry plates with no container. I gotta try to carry all my clothes and my socks and shit. No, that right there makes you feel weird. Why? Because naturally, your brain needs to have things, watch this, in order.
In order.
When things are out of order, can I say this? When you try to move from one place to another without the boxes, I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's gonna be a real terrible move. Let me say like this.
Chaotic.
It's gonna be wrong. It's gonna be dysfunctional.
Right.
So therefore, Yah uses, or our ancestors understood the idea of boxes because it enabled the person doing the work to keep the things that he needed in place, in order, so that he can use them as he wanted to. So therefore, here is the picture of what we do with boxes. One, it is not you. You have a question?
The word order starts with or.
Or.
Order.
It does. It does. Order starts with order. Matter of fact, there's two words like that we borrowed from English. I'm getting ready. That English borrowed from Hebrew.
Yeah.
I have another one coming up. Thank you for that one. Yes. So you have order.
I'm learning.
Right.
So when you see order in light, it's going to mean something in a minute. I'm getting ready to show you. I think you guys are already catching it. But humor me and let me finish this lesson. All right, watch this. Watch this. You already see that order is very important. So watch this. When I'm just going to use the man. And even this is not being chauvinist and say it. When the man comes in with the boxes, number one, he carries the box in the house. He sets it on the ground, and then he lifts up the things or people stuff, and he then places it in the box. Now watch this. Then he lifts up the box and takes it to where it's supposed to go. So it's all on him, right?
Right.
Very, very, very important. The authority, again, does not come from the things. The authority is coming from above. It is the man of the house who is setting up where things go and how they are placed in the box. In other words, it's his choice.
Right.
So you can see that this word then, meaning box or container, in scripture is used in several ways. Let me give you just a few of them. One, box is used as box, B-O-X. In an alabaster box. And it's carrying for perfume, right? There is an ark in the Bible. That when you find out the root word for the Ark of the Covenant, for instance, literally it says box in Hebrew. Ark sounds fancy for us, but it was a box that did what? Held the 10 Commandments, held the manna, and held Aaron's rod that budded.
Right.
Am I right about that? All right. Then, of course, this might be a little morbid, but coffins
Yeah, they old stuff.
were boxes.
Yeah.
And it was, of course, to hold the remains of the past loved ones. Remember, it was Joseph who said, we're going to be in Egypt for a while, but when I'm gone, y'all carry my bones up out of Egypt.
Make sure you take them back.
When you guys get up out of here like y'all said you would, don't leave me
Man.
here.
Right.
In other words, even though I'm going to be in a box, don't leave the box in Egypt.
That's right.
And it says that he died and was placed in a coffin. So this idea is this idea of a place or a container. Noah's Ark. Guess what it was?
A box.
A floating box. And what was the point of the box? Again, didn't the information from the box come from Yah?
Yes.
Right? And then didn't he choose who was going to go in the box?
On the box, yeah.
And wasn't he the one that sealed the box?
Yeah.
And then when the rain came down and the floods and all that, the box floated. And it was that protective thing that when it, now you can sit back and say, how dare Yah choose one man out of all the people on the planet? Guess what? That's still his choice.
That's his choice.
All right. Now, I'm going to give you one more illustration because I saw this illustration. Honestly, I saw this online because I don't think I would have saw this without this picture. A corral to a Hebrew was also a box. It was also an arm. And I couldn't see that at first. I was like, a corral. And then Hula said something today about the thorn bush and the corral. Right? I had heard earlier today about the corral, and I put it in my notes, and I'm like, yes. Once again, it speaks of an authority above, because in this case we're dealing with animals, right? An authority above saying, I need to protect something, so I'm going to make this box, whether it's a circle, whether it's a square, and then I'm going to put these things, animals, in this place so that now they are, watch this. One, I restrict their movement. And number two, I protect them from that which is outside. But I can also feed and provide for them because they are now where? Inside. So once they get inside the corral, they are now under the authority, right, of the higher power, which is for the purpose of order. It's a beautiful picture. And so if you're going to raise cattle and you don't have a corral, you're going to have a hard time. Because yes, they can graze, but they can't get everything they need by just grazing. So you have a corral. So that you, some of y'all that grew up in the country, I know this is going over your head, but you have to be able to corral your animals so that you can give them all the proper nutrients they need, because sometimes grass alone won't do it. Also, you need to keep them safe, and you got to keep predators out. That's why our king says, I am the door of the sheep, because it was the opening of the corral. And he became the door. In other words, to get to the sheep, you had to get by him. Yep. But at the same time, if you were a sheep, you could come in and out and find pasture. Why? Because the door was also the shepherd. Right. So he watched you going out and you're coming in. So the idea, again, has to do with a higher power that is providing boundaries. So, when you put the idea of order, the idea of the box, order from above, and you put all that together, you get this idea of box helps with order. But then you add, which is a wa, you add a wa to it, and this time you're putting the wa or the vav in the middle of the word, which I thought was interesting. Because most of the time you see a vav added to the end of a word or the beginning of a word, but here you see the vav put in the middle of a parent root, and the vav is a connector, right? The vav does what? It's, yes, add, and I want to use that part right there. It adds something. So now we're connecting and adding something. And in this sense, we're going to add something even more powerful. So if you take the word order and you add to it a vav, what you're going to get is organization. Write that down. Or organize. I'll just use it there. Not the zation. Okay. Just for now, organize. So what you get is action. It means organize or organization or to put in order. So when we look at the word or, and we look at the word light, we see that Yah, watch this, uses light to put the world that was in chaos
Oh,
Huh.
in order.
In order.
You see it? It's almost as though he had a chaotic world completely in darkness, and he was like, I gotta clean this mess up. So the very first thing he does is turns on the light.
Yeah.
And how consistent is that with our King? Turn to Luke chapter 15, please. Luke chapter 15, quickly, Zion. And let's go, I think, down to verse 8. Luke 15 and 8. Are you still rolling with me?
don't get it. You roll.
All right. You got it, Ephraim.
Okay.
Uh,
Either what woman
Mm-hmm.
what woman having 10 pieces of silver,
Mm-hmm.
if she loses one piece,
Mhm.
do not light a candle and sweep the house and seek diligently till she finds it.
So here we see light,
Right.
right, being used in order to organize this woman's house that obviously became disorganized when she dropped her coin.
Right.
She lost the coin in the house. So she wasn't running all around outside trying to figure it out where. She said, you know what? Before I even start looking, let me light a candle. Do you know that you cannot clean up your house in the dark? If you don't believe me, try it. Turn off all the lights in midnight and start trying to clean your house. Then wake up in the morning and see what you actually accomplished.
Man.
You will put things, y'all laugh because you already know that's not how you do it.
No.
So you need light if you're going to clean the house. It's like the very first step. You've got to have light because it reveals, watch this, it reveals that which is out of order so that you can now use that light to assist you in putting things back in order. So now you see the relationship between a box and light. Light in darkness only goes so far.
Right.
So wherever you have the light, it is there you can start putting, at that point, you can start taking that which is out of order or that which has become messed up or dysfunctional. You can now, because of light, start to put it back together
Man.
and make it right
Hallelujah.
or make it function all over again. So without light, chaos would rule. But with light, chaos is defeated. What is probably the worst place to be is trying to have light and chaos at the same time.
Same time. Man. Wow, that's huge.
So you either have to be light
What?
or you have to be darkness.
That's
Because to
good.
the Hebrew mind, there's no such thing as a blend.
That's good.
You get it?
Yes.
So, write this down. Because I might not ever be able to say it like this again. Write this down. Light is the mechanism or the way that Yah transferred order. In other words, light is the mechanism for transferring the order that exists in the Father to earth. Light is what he uses to transfer the order that's in his mind to the earth that was at that time out of order. How do I get that which is out of order into the order that I see in my mind? Now, I did make a promise to my wife that I wouldn't use her in illustrations because we live together and I use her in illustrations like all the time. And I always thought they were positive. Depends on how you take it, I guess. But what I've noticed about her that I don't necessarily have is Huldah sees things in her brain in a particular order before she even starts to do something. Let's just use the issue of like the house. So for me, as long as the clothes is clean and the floor is mopped and swept and vacuumed and, you know, dishes is done, whatever, I'm cool. How things are arranged, man, I could pretty much get by if I had to with a card table and a beanbag and a piano and a saxophone. Which, by the way, that's kind of what I had when we got married. Brother, I'll sleep on the floor. I didn't care. I had a mattress on the ground and had my organ, piano, and she would come in, and in her brain, she saw something else. She was like, this could be better. I have a couch called the Woolly Bully. It was the most comfortable couch on planet Earth. But it didn't fit anything. It was just, it was function.
Right.
But the form was, she had order, is my point. So, almost like clockwork, every 2 or 3 months, I get a brand new house inside.
Man.
Not because she buys it, but because she arranges it. So I'm like,
Feng shui.
is that still my room? She's like, yes, that's your room, but that's not your office no more. This is your office now. This is now the guest room. Kids are, okay, all right, I'm good. And then about a month after that, maybe 2 months after that, I walk in, get ready to walk in my office, and she said, oh, that's not your office no more.
Keep it.
I said, no, your office is now where the guest room was. Okay? And I've turned the office into a classroom for the children, and the 2 kids are now going to be in their own bedroom. And I'm like, okay. All right. We're in my office now. Hallelujah. A few months go by.
Another change.
I go to sit down on the couch, and it ain't there. I'm like, whoa,
Where the couch at?
where'd the couch go? It's like, in my mind, I just saw more open space if I moved it over here. Y'all catch me? In other words, what is going on is this. She visions it first,
Right.
and then she tries to put the vision that she has in her mind of what it would look like,
Right.
then into practice or into function. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't, but most of the time it works, and it's like, cool. But then after a while, she'll change it up. So here's my whole point, and a long ways, but I want you all to understand what I'm saying about this. The end result has to come from what she believes is the proper order. It's not done random. Thought has gone into it.
Right.
And therefore the arrangement then is hers.
Right.
When it comes to the world, Zion, Yah arranges things the way he envisions it first. And then he takes what he has envisioned in his own mind and his own heart, and I'm using anthropomorphic expressions, I understand that. But it is at that time he then reveals that order, right, to us to then carry out the work of making it functional. So if the world is in a mess, and his goal is to get the world back in order, then what he needs is light. But the light has to come down from him.
Right.
And then once the light comes, I say it like this, everything needs to be put in its proper place, or if you please, in its boxes. John chapter 8, verse 12. St. John chapter 8, verse 12. I thought this was absolutely tremendous.
One more time. John what? John.
Huh?
John 8.
Yeah, St. John chapter 8, verse 12. Y'all ready?
Yes.
Then spake Yeshua unto them, saying, come on with me. I am, come on.
I am the order.
I am the light of the world. Huh?
Huh?
You're the light of the world. If any human was to make that statement, you would say that that person is being arrogant. No, I'm the light of the whole world. Man, who are you to claim to be the light of the world? Yeah, matter of fact, let me prove it. He that follows me
That's right.
There you go.
That's it, right?
does not do what?
You're
Walk in darkness, but shall have what?
Light.
But shall have light.
Of
Of
life.
life.
Shall have the light of life.
That's heavy.
So what he's saying is everybody outside of me is walking around in darkness and confusion and dysfunction.
Yeah.
So Yah sends me, just like in creation, he sent light in order to organize a world that had become dysfunctional and chaotic and crazy. So he sends Yahushua as the light, and he says this: if you want to get out of this dysfunction, if you want to get out of this darkness, if you want to get out of this evil, this Ra, you've got to follow me. Why? Can I share something with you? Yah is getting ready to destroy everything that's dysfunctional. You better know it. Everything that's messed up and marred,
Man, it's gonna be destroyed.
eventually it's got to go. Matter of fact, he has this affinity as our creator that everything returned back to its natural function that he intended it. It's something in him that says, you messed up something perfect. So therefore, I have to come and straighten it out, and those things that cannot be straightened or fixed, I'm going to just burn them.
Ow.
I'm just going to destroy it. There's no playing with it no more, because I'm going to do all I can. And that's why it is a damnable sin to have Yah himself show up on the planet he made to show us order, and then we turn around and say following him means I can do whatever I want.
Say that. Say it one more time.
That sounds crazy.
Say it again.
Come on
Do
now.
you see how dysfunctional that is? The whole purpose for him coming was because we were in darkness and in confusion and in chaos and all divided and all messed up, boxes all over the floor and in the darkness and books over here and toys over here. And he said, here I come now to be the light. Why? Because once the light turns on, we see how bad things really are in the house or the bet. And in this case, it was in the Bet Israel.
Whoa. Whoa.
That's good.
When he came to his own, I done read the Bible more than once. His own received him not.
Yes.
You talking about a messed up house.
Wrong people.
Daddy come in and nobody know daddy?
Right.
Where is my phone?
An ox knows his
I
owner.
was just getting ready to say that.
A donkey knows his master's crib. But my people,
People, my people.
they don't know and they don't consider. If it had not been for his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he would have already destroyed you. Because you Ra, chaos, darkness, evil, dysfunctional. So everybody is waiting then for Yah to fix it. So if he's gonna fix it, the first thing he's gotta do is turn on the light.
Daddy said,
No, fix it in the dark.
turn on the light.
Can't fix nothing in the dark.
He can't do it in the dark. He tried that. Every time, what would happen? It would just mess up over and over again. He said, you know what? I'm just gonna come be the light. How about that? So
That's right.
he says, I'm the light. The Pharisee said unto him, man, you bear record of yourself. Verse 13, I'm in John. In other words, they said, man, you lying. That's what they said. If you want to put that in the corner of your Bible, right in the margin, they said, your record is not true. In other words, you're lying. You ain't the light. Like, I am the light. You ain't the light. He said, though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true, for I know whence I came. In other words, y'all didn't make me come here. Why? Remember, the authority above did it. And whether I go, but you can't tell where I come from and whether I go. Why? Because you judge after the what? Flesh. And I judge no man. He said, the reason y'all have a problem with me is because you're judging me based on my flesh. You're judging after the flesh. What is he saying? He's saying to you guys, I don't qualify to be your king. I was born in the ghetto. Well, I was born in Bethlehem, but I was raised in the ghetto.
Okay.
Raised in Nazareth. I've been to Nazareth. And I know what y'all thinking. Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Are y'all with me here? You guys think that I'm a bastard because my mama got pregnant before she married my daddy. Are we still in the room? Why y'all get quiet?
Come on now.
He says, in essence, your judgment is faulty, and therefore you cannot see that I'm the light of the whole world. You are rejecting me as the light. When you keep reading John chapter, by the time you get to John chapter 8 at the end, he has to literally tell them, because they were like, we Abraham's kids. And he was like, no, you of your father, the devil. That's a whole nother message. But they pick up rocks and they get ready to kill. And he said, listen, Abraham rejoiced to see my day. And he saw and was glad. And they said, man, you ain't even 50 years old talking about you done seen Abraham. And he said, before Abraham was. Watch this. He didn't say I was. He said before Abraham was, I am. So therefore, this idea of him claiming to be Yah is the truth. I got another verse for you. It says, Yah is light, and in him there's no darkness at all. Yeshua says he's the light of the world. Yah says in me there's no darkness at all. All right, now let me get to my text because you guys have been patient. Just as boxes are used to organize for the purpose of cleaning or the purpose of bringing function. Yah has light, which represents organization, but light is even stronger than just order, because light is more powerful and more enduring. In other words, whereas, just say boxes in that root sense represent to control a particular area like a house, light was really for the world. So there's two sides to light, or there's two functions for light. And I'm gonna give you those two, and we will say good night. The first thing we notice when we get to Matthew chapter 14, he says, you are the light of the world. Write that down, or underline that, world. So light was for the world.
14 what?
This is Matthew chapter 5, verse 14.
Okay.
Matthew 5:14 says, you're the light of the world. World. You're literally a city that's set on a hill. Now the ye there are Hebrews. Ain't no getting around that, Zion. And here's the part where people will say, now there you go, trying to be racist. No, I'm not being racist, I'm being truthful. The Hebrews are the light of the world.
Hallelujah.
They were chosen to be that by Yah.
Hallelujah.
Therefore, they have certain things that makes them, and here's the term, here's the word, visible. Because we live in this fallen culture, we think that when Yah says light, he means white. And when he says darkness, he means black. So that white is considered right or holy or light, and black is considered bad or dark. Therefore, you got all these words of light. So people who are light skinned, that's why most women, I've noticed all over the country, I look real close at them, when they put on makeup, they always make it lighter than they really are. I've never seen a person wear makeup and make themselves darker. Because in our brain, darkness is ugly and white is light. I've never really seen people color their hair to be dark, every now and then. But most of the time, when you look at people, even white women, black women, whenever they do color, they're lightening it. So that everybody wants to be a blonde. But if you look at the roots, you find out that there are hardly no blondes on the whole planet. Look at their roots. Everybody is lightening because light seems psychologically to lean toward color. So you don't want to be light. In every culture, whether it's Chinese, the lighter Chinese are the privileged, the darker Chinese are the working class. Go to India. The lighter the Indian, the more powerful, the more wealthy they are. The darker the Indian, I'm talking about in India. The darker the Indian, they call them an untouchable. When you go to Mexico, they do the same thing. The lighter Mexican people, they are considered to be the upper class. The dark ones, they have a word that literally means dirty. So everybody is trying to lighten their skin. Everybody's trying to be light because they believe light is good, light is right, black is bad. Now watch this. The Bible knows nothing about that in color. It's not dealing with color. It's talking about being visible, attractive. Here's a word, write this down. Influential is the word. Because one of the powers of light is its power to influence its surrounding.
Hallelujah.
Turn off all the lights in this room, it'll become pitch black. We can light one candle and it influences every corner in this room. So light then represents power of influence. The young people use the term trendsetters. It's trendy. It's what everybody follows. So therefore, when Yah said that the Hebrews were the light of the world, he was not saying that they're walking around glowing like no, what he was saying is, you're going to know the Hebrews because they will be the trendsetters for the whole world. You're the light of the world. You're not just the light of the Hebrews, because I'll talk about that in a minute. But he said, you're the light of the whole world. In other words, listen, you will never be hidden. You can forget it. The most influential people who has ever walked this planet, even to this very day, are what most people call black people. But they're not black because there's a bunch of different black people on the planet. But Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, let me tell you something. They're extraordinary. Everything they touch is weird. The sons and daughters of slaves that have been scattered all over the world, according to the Bible, as they would be, in all these different places, they're extraordinary. And everybody knows it. They become the trendsetters.
They built the country.
What's the president? Lester Young started saying people was cool. Now everybody say, man, he's cool.
He's cool.
We started with the high five. Everybody was high five. Man, we started singing blues. Now everybody sing blues. We started singing jazz. Everybody started playing instruments this way. We started slamming basketball. It don't matter. Whatever we do, we set a trend. Nobody was watching golf until Tiger Woods picked up. Now, he thought he was Asian. Don't know that Hebrews are Afro-Asiatic.
Yes.
You had it from both sides. Talking about why you can play golf. What are you talking about? Change the whole game. Matter of fact, had folk plowing up golf courses because they called them tiger proofing.
Yep.
One Hebrew changed the whole game. Hebrews were standing in the key, they throw the ball in the middle, man, just dunk it. Does that work? Can you do that? Well, it looks like it's 2 points. We need a rule then. They can't be shooting in this key. Can't be standing here all day. How long are you going to give them? 3 seconds. They got to get out of there. Why? Because they're changing the whole game. You know they're talking about getting a 4-point line now because of Steph Curry? Steph Curry is changing the game. He's making the game is moving from a 2-point game to a 3-point game. Now, I'm not saying it's just blacks. That's not my point. My point is to be so small as a group of people, the influence that we have is undeniable. When you watch track and field, even if you want to talk about, I was talking to Hoover about this, I said the reason why I talk about music and sports and entertainment, stuff like that, is because it's visible. The soccer champion that won just not too long ago from France, who made the goal, that was a brother. He's a Hebrew. He's a descendant. The Hebrew Israelites. They actually was interviewing him, but I thought was funny because they were saying that all of the teams that play in the World Cup, right? They said all the European teams, this was a white reporter, this wasn't me, this was what she said. She said 2/3 of all those teams are made up, she didn't say black folks, but she said, of people of color and of African descent, and this was, she said, Northeast Africa. They ship the men to these countries because their teams alone, I don't care if they're as prejudiced as you could be, they ain't know if we're gonna compete on a world scale, we better go get some of them Hebrews to come play. They don't say Hebrew because they don't want us to know, but the extraordinary black person. Now, when I say black, I don't mean skin tone, because it's not the color. Our color could be as light can be and dark. But you do know they're special because they stand out. Now here's the problem. As the light, you cannot be hid. So when I was putting this lesson together, and he said, my disciples will be the light of the world, but they can't be hidden, which means, watch this, as you go, so goes the world.
That's right. No matter where you go.
Why? They
they're watching.
follow you.
That's right, they're watching you. No matter what you do, where you go.
You're the trendsetter. So if you become evil,
There it is.
do you understand if the light goes out and the world is already dark, how much darkness, how much more dark? At least the people should be able to look at one people group and go, you know what? They are a standard of what righteousness should be. Why? Because they've been chosen by Yah. And Yah, for some reason, makes them visible. I told Hula, I tried to be invisible. Ain't no lie. I did. When I realized that I have been lied to I was pastoring for 21 years. I told y'all the story a million times. I came to the truth, and I started trying to tell people about the truth, and they didn't want to hear it. I told her. I said, number one, what this is bigger than anything we've ever done in our lives. I said, but number two, I'll tell you this, they ain't gonna hear. And I don't have the energy to try to convince nobody. What you gonna do? I said, I'm gonna kick back in my chair, read my Bible, look out my window, and anybody step on my lawn, I'm like, hey, get off my lawn. That's all you're gonna do? Yeah. Why? Because I'm tired of this whole being visible thing. Then I found out it doesn't work like that.
They don't.
If you, now I'm going to show you something. Not only are we talking about Hebrew Israelites by blood, but if you have connected with the Hebrews, you are now lit and you cannot be hid. Did you catch that?
Yes.
This idea of being the silent partner, the secret disciple, doesn't work. Ask Nicodemus. Didn't it say in the Bible that Nicodemus came by night the first time?
Yes.
Hey, you know, people talking like, man, you need to be born again. No, I mean like people trying to figure out your power. I said, you need to be born again. I'm a ruler. You need to go back to kindergarten. Because if you don't understand something like the new birth, you're not fit to be a ruler in Israel. Watch this. The Bible said Nicodemus was trying to get in with, he was trying to keep his Pharisaical status and then trying to be like a silent disciple. And he spoke out one time. He said, do we condemn a man before we hear him? And he said, who you? I know you ain't trying to. Boy, I know your mama. Boy, you. Oh, you deceived too, huh? So now what? In his group, his light is on. You can't hide. You're the light of the world. You, listening to me right now, you're the ones he chose
Hallelujah.
to use to put the world back in order. Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. I'll just give it to you. Y'all should know it by heart already anyway. He says, our Father, Avinu, who art in heaven, Bashemayim. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Why did he tell us that? Because you is who he's going to use to do it. I told you I was going to give you 2 more points, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to get out of the way. Watch this. You, as the descendants of the Hebrews, or those grafted into this family, need to understand something very clear. The whole world follows you. If you are showing your light, there will be improvements, but you will still be persecuted. You ain't gonna be liked, but you will help. If you hide it under a bushel, the word there in Hebrew should be basket. And it comes from the idea of the tet.
Yes.
Remember, the tet is basket, snakes around. So the idea of hiding up under a bushel, oh, by the way, first I dealt with the world, you're sitting on top of the hill. Second thing is, you are a menorah for the house. So the first thing I was like, you are the city on the hill. So everybody's gonna see you. Just understand that. All of the cities in the world have not been chosen. You have. All of the families of the world have not been chosen. Yours is. All the people in the world, Yah didn't say is the light of the world. He said you are. Who? You who believe in me. Follow me, keep Torah. Mm-hmm. Watch this. He said, now, you are also, he is going to tell you, you're the light of the house. What? Yeah, because there's darkness inside the house. So therefore, men light a menorah. There's the word. So Yah saying, those of us who come to the knowledge of the truth, we must be a menorah in the house. But do men light a menorah to put it under a bushel? And the idea is a basket. And here's what is funny about that whole thing. Even if you try to cover the light of a menorah with a basket, it won't work. Can anybody tell me why? It's holes in the weave. As you weave the basket together, right? And then you try to put it over the menorah, little rays of light.
Still come out.
Come on, talk back to me.
Yeah.
It's a basket. Not only that, the baskets in those days were made out of grass. You can try to cover it, but let me tell you what's going to happen. It's a picture that's supposed to make you get it. Either the light's going to shine through the holes or the whole basket going to catch on fire. So his point is, nobody does it. Nobody takes a basket and put it over the top of a menorah. Or nobody lights a menorah and then tries to put it under a basket. In both ways, it doesn't work. So for you Hebrews, trying to live as though you're not being seen is ridiculous. They were watching everything you do.
That's right. No matter what you do, no matter where you go.
No matter where you go. And people inside the house are watching you for direction, even though they may be talking about you. Because your light is shining. Your light is shining. That's why when you first start talking to your cousin 3 years ago, they told you they didn't want to hear nothing. But the last time you was on the phone with them, they said, well, you know Yah. I said, oh, so you done learned his name, huh? Well, I mean, I'm just saying that, but well, what you say?
Yeah.
Because that little light that I have is shining in my house. It's shining in the house. Now, let me close with this. He says, therefore, but give it light to all that are in the house. Verse 16. What does it say?
Let your light so shine before men,
That
they may see your good works.
there is the word. Tov.
Mm-hmm.
And Tov is functional. So let me shut it down with this idea. You are the only people on the planet that are actually living functional lives. everybody outside of Torah is walking in dysfunction. So the idea is not necessarily what y'all consider good or evil, it's function. So the Hebrews that were at the foot of the king were supposed to understand something. I am supposed to follow him because he's the only one who understands perfect function. So if I follow him, then I'm going to be walking in function. If I don't follow him, I'm going to be dysfunctional. So if the light is dysfunctional, then the darkness is going to be even more dark. So when the Hebrews decide, have you noticed? I'm not into sales or nothing like that, but I noticed something about salesmen. They always want the most visible people to sell their goods, right?
Yeah.
So you get the Capital One man. What's your one?
Samuel Jackson.
Man, they tried a bunch of people before him. I used to watch it. They had all kind of Vikings and stuff trying to say what's in your wallet. But then when they got him, they've had him doing that now for years. Why? He's visible. Back in the day, when they were trying to sell cell phones, they had Whitney Houston singing. When they try to sell cars, they have choirs, black choirs, I hate to use that term, singing music to sell a car.
Pepsi.
When you want to get some Gold Bond, they got Shaq. You didn't even know what Gold Bond was until Shaq started talking about it. Then you're like, I think I need some Gold Bond. When you in the world of advertisement, watch this. They try to find the people who are the most visible. Why? Because they don't care about color. They want who's the most popular. Because they want what they consider to be trendsetters. So they look out and find the most popular people, and guess what? The trendsetters most of the time are always what people call folks of color, who really are Hebrews. Playing music, they want to sell an instrument. If they want to, it doesn't matter. I'm not into sales. I'm just saying, as an observer, when they want to sell something, when they want to push legislation, and this is really sad, when they want to push negative legislation, oftentimes, guess where they go? They go to what's called the black church to get some preacher to stand up for, like, abortion. And they'll say, see, this black preacher did it. Like, really? I remember when Obama, and this is just the truth, so when Obama was running to be the president, right, he wanted to speak to the influential pastors in California and other places, right? So, of course, he called me, or they called me, and he was on the phone. So we were talking on the phone, and Obama was basically saying, he said, now, brothers, now he was driving from one speech to another. We were on the phone. He said, now, brothers, listen, before we make any decision, if I become president, we're going to make sure we call you all and talk to you, bring you to the table, because we know that you really have your hand on the pulse of the nation. And I was listening on the phone, I was like, okay, I've heard this before, because I actually also spoke to George Bush, who said the same thing. I was in LA with him, and he was like, anyway, he said the same thing. And so it was like, all right, here we go again. But when he started passing legislation for the men who wanted to marry men and women who wanted, when he started pushing that legislation, do you know he didn't call me? He called when he wanted to be elected and said he was going to call us whenever there was something that would directly affect our community. But when he got ready to push that doctrine, he went and found others that went along with him to push that legislation through. And people were like, and I'm going to use the term because of understanding, I didn't even know black people were into that. until we didn't know we even had black pastors that was doing that in black churches, because we used to be like sort of a moral compass. But what happened? Once we lost our way, then there's nobody else to go to. Where are you going? If the Hebrews are not keeping Torah, then we're going to blend in with the rest of the world, and nobody will be glorifying our Father who's in heaven. And that's where we're at right now. Where is the glory to Yah?
Right here.
From our singers.
You are it.
Where's the glory from all these rappers that get all this fame? Where's the glory to Almighty Yah and the acknowledgement of Torah from our athletes, from our educators, from our judges, from our lawyers, sons and daughters of slaves that now run companies, presidents and vice presidents and senators and statesmen, and even the president of the United States. And not one time did Yah get the glory.
Right.
He made you the light of the whole world. We saw it in our lifetime. And for 8 years, you could have been like, hey, do you know that his wife's brother knows he's Hebrew? I know y'all don't believe me. Google what I tell you. His wife's brother knows he's a Hebrew. So you don't think Obama knows? Obama was hanging out with Jeremiah Wright. You don't think Jeremiah Wright don't know who we are? Did you hear Farrakhan confess that we're the Hebrews of the Bible?
Cousin.
Oh, it's his cousin, thank you, cousin. Jeremiah Wright, no. Louis Farrakhan, who Obama knows personally, told the whole world, oh yeah, we're the true Hebrews of the Bible. Did you look that up too? Jeremiah, type that in. Farrakhan says we're the true Hebrews. We need to let the world know worldwide. Listen, he knows who the Hebrews are. It's the ones that are most visible right now. So let me close with this. Some of you all have forgotten who you are. But I'm here to remind you, just like the king reminded you. You're the light of the world.
Hallelujah.
Whether you were born in this thing, or adopted into this thing, or grafted into this family, let me tell you something. Once that light turns on, once he lights you, you will never have your light out until you die. And even then, your reputation is going to follow. Get used to it.
All right.
Get used to being the center of attention everywhere you go. Just get used to it. Stop complaining about it. Tom, only just leave me alone. You know, I go to family gatherings or social gatherings, right?
I heard that.
And those of you who don't know me don't know this about me, but I am sort of introverted. I'm cool in my own world. So I go to these gatherings, right? And I'm trying to sit in the back in the corner and enjoy myself or whatever. All of a sudden, here comes somebody. So tell me, I'm like, I just wanted some cake and some sweet tea and a piece of chicken. I was gonna go home, and now everybody's surrounding me.
Your inner extrovert comes out.
I try to go to basketball games. I try to go to football games. I try to just hang out with the family. We just go to the movies or something. Just anything. Trying to go out to dinner. Just try to do anything. Try to go incognito. Somebody said incognito. Who would tell you? I done walk through airports all over America. She would be like, I already know what's going to happen. Like, yeah, you're going to see it. Now, let me tell you what happened. It started happening to her.
No, I don't know.
She was like, I don't know if I like this too much. I said, what? These people just randomly walking up to me and talking to me like they know me. So, well, one is your YouTube channel, but another thing is that we're Hebrew. We are going to be we have to understand that our light influences people, and therefore we have to let it. Isn't that what he said? Let it.
Shine.
Don't cover it. Don't
Yes.
fight it. Don't reject it. Let it.
Let it show.
But let it be good.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
All right, I'm done, but you guys have been kind. It's hard to let your light shine drunk out your mind.
That one poses a difficult.
Now, I'm not saying you're not the light, but if you drunk out of your mind, it's going to be very difficult to have good work. If you're high out your mind, is it to all of my brethren that want to, they smoking the weed, and they think that that's how they get in touch with Yah. Listen, you don't need weed to get in touch with Yah. What Yah is seeking for is a clear conscience, a contrite heart. He wants your heart and your mind to be stayed on Him. Now, don't write me a bunch of stories about weed, because that's not my point. My point is sober-mindedness is important in this last day, because people are watching your works and saying that must be the way Yah is. If you all got marital problems, work it out. All that fussing and fighting in public is not giving a good picture of Yah and us. Yah can't get the glory in all that fussing and fighting. Children, obey your parents in Yahuwah, for it's right. Why? Men, women, boys, and girls will see your good work and give Yah glory. You are the light of the world. Let me read this and I'm done. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it give light to all that's in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify not you, but your Father, which is in heaven. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim, in vain. Let your light and your light bring order and function to a world that's dysfunctional. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.